Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is Dr. M. P. Satija, retired recently professor and head from the Department of Library and Information Science, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar. Today's topic is the parts of a library classification system. It may be noted that classification is a process, an act, but a library classification to be applied in libraries is a system, and like any other system, it is made of parts or subsystems. The major subsystems or parts of a classification system are: number one, the schedules, which is the central or the core part of a classification or rather library classification system. Within the schedules, we have entries comprised of subjects mostly given in hierarchical manner, and each subject is given corresponding a code number that we call notation, and every entry also contains some notes for better understanding or scope of that subject, or to give some instructions for further constructing a number from the schedules. Apart from schedules, another important component of a classification system, as distinguished from knowledge classification, is notation. Notation is a series of shorthand symbols to represent subjects and their parts in the schedules. Then, apart from notation, we have the index. Index is an alphabetical key to the schedules, as schedules are mazy long, but index can find or locate the concepts in alphabetical manner in no time. Apart from this, we also require a system or a body for managing, maintaining, and revising a classification system. So all these classification systems have, whatever be their names, as we will define you now, have all these components. Major general library classification systems designed so far are: number one, Dewey Decimal Classification, designed by Melville Dewey, which is the mother of all classification systems. Universal Decimal Classification, which was designed in 1905, it is an extension of the DDC. Then came Expansive Classification by C.A. Cutter. Library of Congress Classification, which was published in 1904, is a very famous classification. And then there is another classification, Subject Classification by J.D. Brown, published in UK. Bibliographic Classification, first edition, was designed by H.E. Bliss, which was completed in 1953. Then came Ranganathan's Colon Classification, which was India's first contribution to science of classification. Then came Bibliographical Classification, that is BBK, from Russia, published by Viniti. And lastly came Writers' International Classification by Ferment A. Ryder. Then BC2 was again revised by J. Mills in 1977. It still continues. And broader system of ordering, that is BSO, has been compiled by J. Coates under FIDCAR, though it was not designed for library classification. It was some sort of a bridge classification. Aims and objectives of library classification. A library classification is a system composed of many parts or subsystems which work towards its objective. And objectives and aims of library classification systems are: number one, it brings together closely related classes or subjects. It's sufficiently subdivided to index everything or class under the sun. Is capable of further extension and subdivision as our knowledge grows. That is, it can be expanded to accommodate new subjects. It is not subject to too frequent revision or drastic reorganization. It is one of the requirements. Is recognized widely in order that users may find their way about it easily. That is, it should be universal and well-known system. It has extensive index of its classes in alphabetical order, otherwise it may not be able to work properly. Has moderately mixed notation which shows hierarchy, is easy for inserting and finding the classified arrangement, and is hospitable to new subjects and allows interdisciplinary combinations. It is one of the great requirements of a classification system, and is available as a web-based online system nowadays. Components of a classification system are very much related to the functions of classification. Namely, an ideal library classification system is supposed to have the following broader functions in order of their importance. A. Cognitive function, that it is a map of knowledge. B. Bibliographic function, that it is used for information retrieval and organizing micro documents. Third and last, shelf arrangement, that is location and browsing of documents in a library. A classification system which performs an upper function best also performs lower functions equally good. Since in a library we are dealing with bibliographic classifications or library classifications, so such a system has the major two functions, namely linking an item on the shelves with its catalog entry. An item's class number forms part of call number, which enables items in the library catalog to be retrieved from the shelves. And second, direct retrieval by browsing. If we know where a subject is classified or we know the broader map, we can locate it without having to search the whole collection going to the catalog, and can moreover expect to find related subjects nearby while browsing. Functional requirements of bibliographic classifications. These are the systematic arrangement of knowledge or of documents in a collection has two important functions. It gives us an overview of the subject field covered. It makes it possible for formation on a subject to be retrieved without having to search the whole file. That is, provides random access to documents and information. And lastly, allows meaningful browsing in stacks or surrogates in the database. Number 4. The qualities that a bibliographic classification requires in order to achieve these ends are a helpful collocation and helpful order and a brief memorable notation, and a host of techniques and devices for number synthesis. Now let us see what is necessary for a library classification system. It should be explicit, recorded, unambiguous, with notes and instructions. That it should be clear and in black and white. It should be available both to the classifiers and users. Then it should be designed to comprehensively mirror the cognitive structure of potential users and knowledge. And it should be designed to cover the literature, information or knowledge base which is to be supposed to organize. Print and machine readable formats of classification systems. Since the last decade of the previous century, most of the living classification systems have converted their print format into machine-readable databases. The DDC, UDC, and the LCC are available both in print and machine-readable formats. Now, machine-readable format is the main source, while other versions, including print editions, are its byproducts. In the beginning, it was done only to help the editors in the editing and publishing the systems, but now these have been made available to the users mostly on the web, which have many additional features apart from being kept up to date by the publishers. Machine-readable formats of classification systems. Classification systems in machine-readable database, which these days are in Mark 2.1, concise format for classification data, has the following functions as given by Dr. Slavik in 2008. Number 1. Searching and browsing of classification by notation. Hierarchy allows to broaden or deepen the search at any point. Searching notation through associated verbal expression, sort and displays schedules. Automatic tracing of hierarchical and associative linking. Tracing of system rules to the area of their application. Navigation between tables, facets, and subject areas. Then tracing historical data through schemes lifespan. And it, for example, replaced or various historical notes are given by the are available in machine readable forms. However, an online classification system does not differ logically or intellectually from its print version. As already said, classification are divided into two categories, that is general and special classifications on the basis of the subject areas covered. A collection may be a general or special. A general classification covers all subjects. A special classification concentrates on a narrower range of topics or the goods manufactured or services provided by an organization for which it has been developed. Some general classification, notably UDC, Library of Congress classification, and Bibliographic classification second edition, have been developed in sufficient depth of details to enable them to be adapted to special collections. It means that such classification can be used for both the purpose, that is used as a subject of the general classification as well as a special classification. Parts of library classification. So this is the core topic of this module. A classification is simply a systematically arranged list of subjects in the universe of knowledge. To be of practical use, a classification needs additional features, and these are what makes it into a scheme or system. A classification scheme has three broader components as said by Rowley and Hartley. Number one, the schedules, in which subjects are listed systematically, showing their relationship. The order in which the subjects are listed in these schedules and may not be self-evident, and therefore it requires, number one, a notation, a code using numbers and or of letters that have a readily understood order, which signals the arrangement of schedules and helps the maintenance of order on the shelves at any time. An alphabetical index to locate the terms within the schedule is also essential for such a long and mazy system. It is often stated that classification requires a force component, that is governing body, to develop it and maintain its currency, that is manpower. The core component or the central component of a classification system is known as schedules. A schedule is a systematic list of classes and their subdivisions arranged in a helpful way. It is the core of the terra firma of the system. Classification schedules comprise the following elements: main classes, the divisions of classes by a single characteristics at a time, that is hierarchy, or subdivisions, then again division into facets generated by facet analysis, and subfacets, arrays and chains formed by subdivisions of the facets by single characteristics at a time. In the schedules, we have division of classes. The division of classes must be by one characteristics at a time. There are two approaches to the division of classes, namely enumerative and faceted. Historically, bibliographic classifications have followed enumerative systems in which classes and subclasses have been deduced top-down, moving from general to specific. This enumerative method has the following problems. 1. Successive divisions can only properly cover one type of relationship, that is hierarchy, at a time. Number 2. Successive subdivisions of classes may be carried unnecessarily, ignoring the literary warrant. Some topics may get repeated under different arrays. Enumerative systems are now out of fashion, giving way to faceted approach. It means that the new systems which are being created are faceted in nature, they are not enumerative. Faceted approach. And the new approach is known as a faceted or even an analytico-synthetic one. Faceted classifications are constructed in an inductive, bottom-up manner in which the basic concepts are assigned to a few preordinated categories of facets in a faceted approach. These are compound and complex topics are formed by synthesis only. They are not enumerated. Classification is easily hospitable to new subjects. This hospitality is multi-dimensional. Class numbers are customized to be coextensive with the subject of the documents. That is, no ready-made class numbers are available. You have to make according to the subject of the document. And lastly, in this way, the structure of knowledge is clear. Relations in library classification. Classification is all about relations, or classification is discovering relations in other ways. There are two types of relations displayed or inherent in classification schedules. These are semantic relations that is meanings, and the second is syntactic relation, that is the grammar. And sub-category of syntactic relation is principle of inversion, that we will talk later. In the schedules, the major divisions of subjects is by what is known as main classes. In both the systems, that is enumerative and faceted, the first division is by broad classes called the main classes. All current classification systems are based on their main classes and they are divided by discipline. A discipline is defined as a broader division of the universe of knowledge which gives context to the phenomena. Main classes form the first order area of the division of universe of knowledge in any system. These being conventional are postulated but arbitrarily by the designer of the systems. It means that main classes do not exist in nature, they vary from system to system. In the main classes, most important and the requirement for library classification is what is called Generalia Class. As its name implies, this is the general works class provided to accommodate such books as general encyclopedias, newspapers, and other polytopical books which cover knowledge in general or such a portion of it that is impossible to place them under any one class or in the schedules. Or it is a hold-all class, and it is the essential feature of book classification to provide a place which precedes the disciplinary divided subjects. It means that Generalia class is the first main class or class in any general system of classification. The Generalia class also belong to what is known as form class. They do not belong specially to any other main class. The Generalia class may be considered as a form class also. For example, encyclopedias, dictionaries, anthologies, they are also known as form classes and they are Generalia in nature. In its practical form, however, when subjects considered pervasive of knowledge are included, it cannot be considered as a rigid form class. Thus, a Generalia class is more than a form class and it is only included in library classification, whereas in knowledge classification, no Generalia class exists. Another part of the schedules is form divisions apart from the main classes. A book or any particular subject may deal with that subject in various ways, from different viewpoints or in different forms. It may be an encyclopedia, a dictionary, a periodical, an advanced or elementary treatise, or it may be written as a history, a philosophy, an essay, or any other graphic or literary form. Books on almost every subject frequently fall into one of these categories. All bibliographic classification make provisions for this form in books by addition of the so-called form divisions or common divisions, or Ranganathan calls them common isolates. Example of form classes from the Dewey Decimal Classification. In the DDC, such form classes or divisions are known as standard subdivisions, which are given in Table 1. For example, 01 Theory and Philosophy of a Subject, 02 Handbooks, Manuals, etc., 03 Alphabetical reference works such as encyclopedias, dictionaries, 04 Serial publications such as periodicals, journals, annuals, and such things, 05 Conferences, seminars, and other regular meets, 06 Study, teaching and research in a subject, 07 Anthologies, and 08 History, Bibliographic, etc., to give them broadly. These numbers with their notation such as 01, 02 can be added to any number in the schedules, and similar provisions can also exist in other classification such as colon classification, and where they are known as common isolates. Form versus subject. In library classification, sometimes there may be a confusion between form and the subject. It is very important to distinguish between the two. Many of the terms representing these forms correspond to terms used in the main schedule for specific subjects. There is, however, a distinct difference in their meaning and implications. In the main schedules, the terms are used to represent recognized subjects from the field of knowledge, that is, Encyclopedia Britannica gets the class number 031. Similar terms used in the form divisions represent either a special way in which a book is written and produced or aspects from which the subject is viewed. Form divisions are exclusive to a library classification. They form these Generalia divisions of a specific class. In practice, they produce further and more detailed and convenient grouping of books to be made on the shelves, as said by Phillips. Lastly, many schemes recognize their generality of application by converting them into common subdivisions, that is, a constant set of divisions which can be used to qualify any subject on the schedules. Another component of the schedule that is known as techniques is devices for synthesis and phase relation. In every faceted classification, you have to make provisions for combining two or more classes or to make a subject already given more precise and more sharp. This was not available in enumerative classifications, but they are essential component of a faceted classification or analytical synthetic classification. Another component in the schedule is the notation. Another notation can be an independent component of a library classification because mostly library classifications are noted or recognized by their notation used. Classification notation is a series of symbols which stands for the names of classes or any divisions or subdivisions of a class and forms a convenient means of reference to the arrangement of classification. Though the notation is an important addition to classification schedules, yet it should in no way determine its logic, its scope, or its sequence of development. Mean classification is only additional, not the core. Classification should not determine the arrangement, but classification should facilitate or help in the arrangement already arrived. So, notation is the engine of library classification, far from being any menial servant. A notation is essential for library classification. Without notation, it should not be possible to apply classification to documents. As classification is the foundation of librarianship, it can be very safely said that notation is the engine of practical classification. Though notation has been called an additional or adjunct of a library classification, but it has many essential uses in library classification, without which a library classification will not work at all. A notation is a guide to the sequence of subject and places a book in the hierarchy of the schedules. Thus, a notation serves to denote the classes, their subdivisions, and the order in which these are arranged without any way naming or defining them explicitly. Makes possible the use of the index. The symbol attached to the index entry is the only means of quick reference to the place of topic in the schedules. Notation is used as a short sign to be written in various parts of the book, on the spine, back of the title page, label, and charging cards, etc. To facilitate the arrangement of books on the shelves, the arrangement of records in the issue and return tray, and other statistical information. It is the basis of chain indexing to drive standardized subject headings for the subject catalogs. The notation is a piece of apparatus without which book classification cannot function at all. Types of notation. There are two types of notation by pedigree, pure and mixed. Pure comprises of single species of digits, usually numerals or alphabetical. For example, the DDC notation using 0 to 9 numerals decimally is a pure notation. There are other notation just like riders, they are pure notation. But CC and the Library of Congress use mixed notation which comprises of numerals, alphabets, or even of punctuation marks. The DDC, which uses the Indo-Arabic numerals, is the best example of a pure notation. And Riders International Classification uses A to Z, and that is 26 alphabets in caps, is also another example of pure notation. Mixed notation can again be divided into two categories of moderately mixed, as in LCC, and Bibliographic classification, which use alphabets and numerals together. The CC and UDC use highly mixed notation, which comprise of alphabets, numerals, and punctuation marks, etc. Moderately mixed notations are elegant and work effectively, and they are popular. The Library of Congress uses an alphabetical notation A to Z for the main classes. The subdivisions are denoted by a second sequence, again by A to Z, and then within these divisions, numerical span from 1 to 9,999 is used to give numbers to various topics in that class. Another component of a classification system is book number, which may also be called the part of notation. In library classification, the class numbers alone is not able to provide a unique place to a document. For example, there may be many books on the history of Mughal India bearing the same class numbers. For a proper and effective organization and location, such books having the same class numbers should be further divided sharply or individually. The device to do this is called a book number or author number. In the library of Congress classification and to some extent in the colon classification, book number is a part of call number. Book numbers usually follow two opposing techniques, that is alphabetical by author or chronological by the year of publication. The Library of Congress uses simplified cutter numbers as an integral part of the notation to provide a complete call numbers, and that cutter method is alphabetical arrangement by author in nature. Alphabetical index. Apart from the schedules, another important component of a library classification system is alphabetical index. An index is an alphabetical list of the terms mentioned in the schedules and tables referring to their notations. It usually includes, so far as possible, all the synonyms of these terms together with the same synthesized subject, even if they are not included in the schedules. The index is a labor-saving device assisting in location of topics in lengthy and mazy schedules, but must be used as an aid to, not means of classification. Its principal virtue is that it ensures that a subject will always be classified in the same place in the schedules. The index to the classification schedule has two purposes: to locate within the classification by the classifier or even by the users, to bring together related aspects of a subject which appear in more than one place in the schedules. Indexes are even of many types. Specific index, which gives one entry only for each topic mentioned in the schedules, together with synonyms. These are simple indexes. Relative index, which enumerates topics mentioned, all synonyms, and to a great extent shows the relation of each subject to the other subjects. Perhaps the best example of a full relative index is that appeared to the Encyclopedia Britannica and the Dewey Decimal Classification. In fact, the index of the Dewey Decimal Classification is a new or another important contribution to the science of classification, because an index is another way of approaching the knowledge organization. While in the schedules, the subjects are divided by disciplines. Within the discipline, all the topics which were scattered in the schedules are brought together in the index. So, in this way, index provides another approach to knowledge organization. It is not simply an alphabetical index. Faceted classification need only to index the simple concepts appearing in the schedules. Index of the DDC provides a new way of organizing topics which were earlier given in the schedules. Last but not the least component of a classification is its revision machinery. Bibliographic classifications are born out of date because knowledge is always advancing. Classifications are necessarily closed rather than open systems. The placing of a new topic is not automatic. As it is with verbal systems, only a controlling organization can determine the correct placing of a new topic within the schedules. This revision committee is essentially a part of governing body of the systems. It has to maintain the system forever and to be current and relevant to the users. It has been experienced that a system such as the LCC and the Dewey Decimal Classification, which have a backing of big library and are regularly revised, are popular. It means they have a good revision machinery. That's why they are popular and very useful to the people. It has taken as an assurance for the lifelong stability of the system. It means that if there is a good revision machinery, if there is a good body to maintain it, it is a guarantee for the lifeline of the system, and it is also a sort of assurance to the users that there is somebody to take care of their problems in case of a need, and the system will always be kept current to accommodate new knowledge and always can be relied upon to be used in the library. Therefore, the classifications such as the colon classification and the BC2, though sound in theory, are not accepted by the librarians due to lack of any institutional support. It may be added that colon classification is considered as one of the best classification systems in the world, but it is no more popular, it's no more being used because there is no revision machinery. And people have come to know, or they believe that when they have a problem, there is nobody to help them, and the systems are not going to accommodate new subjects. That's why they are not using such system, though theoretically they are very sound. Therefore, it may be said that revision machinery is some sort of a after sale service. And if there is a good revision machinery, the scheme will be used by the libraries and the librarians, the catalogers. And if there is no revision machinery, howsoever sound the classification may be, it's not. In conclusion, we can say there are many general classification systems used in libraries all over the world. A library classification is a system having many components to serve its major functions, namely cognitive function, that is knowledge mapping and organization, bibliographic function, that is for information retrieval, and lastly shelf arrangement for locating and browsing documents. Keeping in view the functions of the library classification system, whether general or special, whether enumerative or faceted, or in print or electronic formats, they have all the following parts in common, which are schedules, which comprises of the layout of main classes, their divisions and subdivisions. In the schedules are the instructions for scope of the subject or for the constructing new numbers. The schedule is in fact the central or terra firma and the core part of the classification system. Major feature of a library classification system is its notation, which is a series of shorthand symbols to represent classes and to maintain the shelf arrangement. In the schedule is also what is known as Generalia Class, which is not available in knowledge classification. Another important and last component is the alphabetical index. Alphabetical index is a key to the subjects in the schedules, which are very long and mazy. Without alphabetical index, a schedule cannot be operated. Some classification also have book numbers, which is a device for sub-arrangement of documents having the same class number. Some people also feel and consider that the editorial board or the body for its continuous editing and updating is also a component of classification, because without it, classification will neither work nor survive.